a rhythmic, labored cadence in the absolute silence of the forest. Each breath is a visible cloud of desperation hanging in the frigid air before vanishing. The trees stand as skeletal sentinels, their branches stripped bare by a winter that seems to have no end. The world is reduced to shades of white and gray, a stark, frozen canvas. The isolation is a physical weight pressing in from all sides. Then, a break in the rhythm, a pause. The crunching stops. The breathing is held, because another sound has woven itself into the stillness. It is not the wind, it is not an animal. It is a distant, unnatural call, a high-pitched whistle that seems to slice through the cold. It echoes faintly between the trunks, directionless and threatening, and against the monochrome of the trees, a gaunt silhouette shifts. It is impossibly tall and thin, a distortion of a human form standing perfectly still. It does not move, but its presence is a violation of the natural order. This is the core fear made manifest, the terror of being utterly alone, and yet knowing with a cold certainty that seeps into your bones that you are being watched by something that should not exist. The unseen predator has announced itself. The legend takes root. Algonquian origins, this figure is not a random monster. It is a being with a name, a history, and a profound cultural purpose. Its roots stretch deep into the folklore of the Algonquian peoples, the original inhabitants of the vast northern woodlands of North America. To them, this creature was known as the Wendigo, but it was more than just a story to frighten children. It was a spirit, a personification of the harshest realities of their world, starvation and the relentless winter. The Wendigo was born from a specific, terrifying taboo: cannibalism. In a culture where survival was a daily struggle against the elements, the consumption of human flesh was the ultimate transgression. It represented a complete surrender to base instinct, a severing of the bonds that held society together. The myth served as a powerful cautionary tale, a stark warning against the greed and consumption that could unravel a person and a community from the inside out. It taught that in the desperate pursuit to satisfy one hunger, you could awaken another, far greater and more insatiable one. The true horror of the Wendigo is profoundly psychological. It is a monster that reflects human desperation back at us. It does not emerge from a dark cave or a haunted swamp. It is created from the darkest corners of the human heart. It is what happens when hope dies and survival becomes a twisted or consuming obsession. The Wendigo is the embodiment of the fear that, under the right conditions of extreme cold and hunger, any one of us could lose our humanity. This potential for transformation is what gives the legend its enduring power. The physical description of the Wendigo is a direct reflection of its origin. It is emaciated, its skin stretched taut over a skeletal frame, symbolizing the starvation that birthed it. Its flesh is often described as being gray and deathly cold, with signs of frostbite, as if the winter itself has frozen its veins. But its most defining feature is its eyes, which burn with a feverish, insatiable hunger. It is a hunger that can never be satisfied no matter how much it consumes. This was the cultural story, a lesson woven into the fabric of life for generations. But for the individual, lost in the woods freezing and starving, the story ceases. To be a legend becomes a very personal nightmare. The warning transforms into a premonition. The question is no longer what is the Wendigo, but am I becoming one? The transformation becoming the hunger. The transformation into a Wendigo is not a sudden dramatic event. It is a slow, insidious erosion of the self. It begins with the cold, a deep, penetrating chill that settles not just in the bones, but in the soul. It numbs the fingers and toes first, then the emotions. The memory of warmth becomes a distant, fading dream. Alongside the cold comes the hunger, a gnawing emptiness in the gut that grows with each passing hour. Rational thought starts to fray. At the edges, his priorities shift. The desire for companionship, for safety, is slowly replaced by a single, primal focus. Finding sustenance, there is a moment, a specific point of transgression that seals one's fate. It is the moment a person, driven past the brink of endurance, commits the act that the legends warn against. This is the Rubicon crossed, the point of no return. It is an act born of absolute desperation, but it is also a choice. And in that choice, something fundamental breaks inside. The humanity that was already fading is extinguished, and something else awakens. The physical change that follows is a grotesque manifestation of this internal shift. The body, already weakened, begins to contort. It stretches, limbs elongating into unnatural proportions. The skin tightens against the bones, becoming sallow and leathery, as if all moisture and life have been sucked out. The face sharpens, the cheeks sinking into hollows, the lips pulling back from teeth that seem to grow longer and more predatory. The individual's former appearance is erased, replaced by a gaunt caricature of starvation. Perhaps the most haunting attribute is the appearance of antlers, or something resembling them jagged spikes of ice and bone that push their way from the skull. They are not a symbol of majesty, but of a nature perverted, a crown of frozen agony. The Wendigo's breath is a permanent, visible frost, a cloud of absolute zero that hangs in the air, killing the very life around it. As the body changes, the mind is hollowed out. The internal conflict, the guilt, the fear, the memory of being human fades away like a forgotten echo. It is replaced by a single, driving instinct, a consciousness reduced to its most basic form, hunger. A hunger so vast it becomes the being's entire reason for existence. There is no past, no future, only the eternal, painful present of need. With this final loss of self comes the loss of voice. The ability to form words, to plead, to scream, is gone. In its place is the Wendigo's chilling call. It is a sound that defies easy description, a high, whistling shriek that seems to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. It echoes through the silent pines, a siren song of despair that lures others deeper into the woods. It is the only language the creature has left. This is the point of no return. The transformation is complete. The hunter, the person who entered the forest seeking game or shelter, has become the hunted. But, more accurately, they have become the hunger itself, a perpetual predator doomed to stalk the frozen landscape forever. The human they once were is now just a ghost, a memory trapped within a monstrous shell, forever aware on some dim level of the horror they have become, yet powerless to stop the relentless drive to consume the hunt. An eternal winter. The Wendigo does not inhabit the forest. It is the forest. Its domain is an extension of its own cursed existence, an endless, silent expanse where the snow never truly melts and the sun is a distant, forgotten memory. This is an eternal winter, a landscape frozen in time, perfectly mirroring the frozen wasteland within the creature's soul. To be hunted here is to be pursued by the environment itself. The trees become a labyrinth with no exit. The falling snow a veil that obscures both predator and prey. Every shadow seems to shift. Every gust of wind sounds like a whispered threat. Its methods are a masterclass in psychological warfare. The Wendigo is a patient hunter, a stalker that uses the terrain to its advantage. It moves with an unnerving silence, its elongated limbs allowing it to glide over the snow without leaving a clear trail. It understands the power of fear, often choosing to be felt rather than seen. You might catch a glimpse of its gaunt silhouette flickering between distant trees, always just at the edge of vision, never close enough to confirm, but always present. This constant low-grade terror is its preferred weapon, slowly eroding the sanity of its victim. Perhaps its most cruel trick is its ability to mimic voices. It can replicate the sound of a lost loved one calling for help, a friend shouting that they've found shelter, a child crying in the cold. The call is perfect, a heartbreaking echo of a memory designed to lure the desperate and the compassionate into a trap. It preys on the very humanity its victim is struggling to retain. To follow the voice is to walk willingly toward your own damnation. A final, tragic act of hope exploited by absolute malevolence. This is the core of the horror, being pursued by something that knows what it means to be human, that remembers enough to mock the bonds it has forever lost. Conventional weapons are useless against such a being. A bullet might pass through its emaciated form, but it cannot kill a spirit. An axe might chip the ice of its antlers, but it cannot sever the curse. The Wendigo is a creature of frost and hunger, of intangible dread. Fighting it only confirms its physical dominance. It is a force of nature, as unstoppable as a blizzard or an avalanche. The only true defense is to never attract its attention in the first place, to avoid the circumstances that give it power. But for those already deep within its domain, such wisdom comes far too late. This is because the Wendigo's hunger is its defining, eternal curse. It is an insatiable void, a bottomless pit of need that can never, ever be filled. No amount of consumption brings relief, only a momentary pause before the agony returns, sharper and more demanding than before. Each act of feeding is a temporary salve that deepens the eternal wound.